Delivery?
Oh, thanks very much. I'll take that. Thank you. Are you going to stay for a cup of coffee, Cindy?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Why not?
It's Baggy Hi-Fi time.
All right. Greetings, cats and kittens. Yes, it's that time again. It's Baggy Hi-Fi time, this YouTube channel devoted to record collecting and the vinyl community here in the UK. Well, it's September, and welcome to the latest episode. It's the end of summer. The nights are drawing in. There's a nip in the air. School's returned this week. So my thoughts have been turning to autumn, that season of mist and mellow fruitfulness that the poet wrote about. And the question I'd like to raise in this video is, do the seasons have an effect on the way we listen to music? With the advent of music streaming and playlists, we tend to group music together now by mood. And that's probably something we did long ago when we were making cassette mixtapes. We would try to put together often a mood. So are we likely to listen to the Beach Boys in winter as much as we might in the summer? So this is the question. Do we turn to music which is more introspective in the season of autumn? Do we go for our Nick Drake LPs? Well, in this video I'm going to show 5 albums which I tend to listen to in the autumn, and particularly this autumn, because a couple of them are ones that I've just recently bought. Compilers of albums like Bob Stanley and Pete Wiggs, they've been doing this kind of thing where they would group music together on a compilation, which would be put together not by style of music but by the mood of the music. And they've done that with the English weather compilation, one called Occasional Rain, and I was just looking the other night that they put together one which is called, I think it's 76 Degrees in the Shade. And so they put together library music, soul music, pop music that kind of recreates the mood of the summer, the long hot summer of 1976. But back to autumn. So I'm going to show albums which I think kind of go with the atmosphere of the season, and ones which I really enjoy listening to in this season which is now upon us. So the first one I'm going to show is, I've shown this band before but not this actual album. It's by Flying Saucer Attack, a very lo-fi DIY act from Bristol, who put out some albums in the 1990s. This is their first official album, and it's often called Rural Psychedelia because it's in small lettering there. It says Rural Psychedelia, and certainly their music does evoke landscape. And you know, this cover is quite a good description of the music that is in these albums. This is a reissue on Domino Records. If I can use a sort of visual analogy, their music, I did mention it's DIY, all of it was all of their albums I think were recorded at home, and they do have a sketchbook quality to them, you know, little vignettes of music, very spacey, rural, psychedelic, influence of folk music, influence of krautrock, and I'm going to do a needle drop of one of the tracks on here, which is very overt in its reference to krautrock because it's called Popolver, reference to the great German band Popolver. There's the insert. Domino have done a really nice job on reissuing these records. I do like them very much. The band reformed in the middle, I think about 2015, but I've not heard that release, and I do treasure these records. Very autumnal, very much landscape music. moving on to a much older record now. I'm going to show you an album by Jack Bruce, Harmony Row from 1971. And this copy is one I've had since I was in my early teens. I think my dad bought me this album because I was showing an interest in rock music at the time. And of course, Jack Bruce in the early 70s was still remembered as being a member of the trio Cream. But out of that trio of Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, I think that Jack Bruce made the most interesting solo albums. And it's probably because of his background in jazz. His music was much more adventurous than Eric Clapton. I'm not going to go on about Eric Clapton because I've mentioned it before in my other videos, but he made many bland albums. I think you can't really underestimate, or in my case anyway, the influence of sleeve art on the mood of a record, or how you perceive a record, how you listen to an album. And this is the sort of grey sleeve on this original copy from 1971 influenced me, because it does have a sort of a grey, solemn quality to the not only the sleeve art but the music which is inside. I think they're very compatible, the sleeve art. And this is an interesting gatefold, and there's this picture of Jack Bruce there sitting with his Fair Isle woolly jumper on, looking out at the sea. And the lyrics are on here, and the album comes out of this part here. So it's nice, very much an early 70s packaged on Polydor. The music is very jazz influenced, but there's a lot of singing on it. Quirky lyrics by Pete Brown. Fantastic record. I often listen to this, but especially in the season of autumn. The musicians on here, there aren't many. I was amazed to actually read. There are only 3. John Marshall, jazz drummer who did a stint in Soft Machine. Chris Spedding on guitars, who you may remember wearing leather and having the hit single Motorbiking in the late 70s. But Chris Spedding is also very much a jazz player. So yeah, thoroughly recommend this album if you've never heard it. And also the one prior to that, Songs for a Tailor, and the one after it, Into the Storm. Really testament to the talent of Jack Bruce. This third record I'm going to show in this autumn themed video is by Galaxie 500. Don't suppose I really need to introduce Galaxie 500. I'm sure you all know of them. This is not an album, this is an EP which plays at 33 RPM. It came out in 1989, and it features mainly a track from their On Fire album, Blue Thunder, but this version has saxophone on it. But it's notable also, I really often listen to this release. It's released on Rough Trade. 4 tracks, and as I was just about to say, one of the reasons why I listen to this album quite often is because it features 2 cover versions which are really fantastic. One is a cover version of Joy Division / New Order's song Ceremony, which of course is a very solemn tune to begin with, and Galaxie 500 slow it down even more. And also they do a cover version of Red Crayola's Victory Garden, which also I think Sonic Boom did a cover version of as well. So yeah, the other track, the 4th track on it, is Cold Night, and it is a very sort of drowsy fireside tune. So yeah, excellent. Lovely sleeve as well. Galaxie 500's Blue Thunder EP from 1989. Moving back to some sort of folky territory now. Shirley Collins has more or less sort of been rediscovered since the 1990s, early 2000s as a premier folk artist in the UK, and she's recently made a couple of albums again since she began to sing again. But this is from her late 60s output, and this is Shirley Collins with her late sister Dolly Collins, and this is Anthems in Eden. And this is a project put together with David Munro and the early music consort. So there's lots and lots of instruments like crumb horns and sackbuts on here. And the first side of this album is a song suite, which is the theme of it is how England was changing with the First World War, and how a lot of the folk traditions were disappearing in England, in rural England. And this is again a very rural album in a different way from Flying Saucer Attack. There's Shirley and her sister Dolly with this creature here, which I think was used in Morris dancing. I think it's a Morris ram. The lovely reissue, I think it's quite a recent reissue on Music on Vinyl, and it would have been released on Harvest originally, but they've sort of done a tribute to Harvest on the label there. Very, very highly recommended record, and it's not all traditional tunes. There is a song by incredible string bands, Robin Williamson, God Dog, which is one of my favourites from this album. I used to have it on CD, but I seem to have lost it in the various house moves along the way, so I just bought it the other week on vinyl, and it's perfect autumn listening. And we're now moving on to our final of these 5 records to listen to in autumn. Now, although folk music and rural music, I think, does fit the theme of autumn, it doesn't always have to be rural, and this album is certainly not a rural one. It's by Mike Westbrook, and it's Metropolis, recorded in 1971. It's a jazz album. Mike Westbrook is a very important figure in British jazz. There he is there. Quite well known and celebrated for being a composer of jazz music for large groups, large ensembles, and that's the case with this. It's sort of a jazz orchestra. This was originally released on the RCA Neon label, which was their imprint for the underground and prog generally, and more adventurous music. And it's a nice repro of the Neon label here on this Music for Vinyl reissue, and there's the logo as well for the Neon label. Originals of these albums would set you back a fair amount of money, so this is a very, very nice, very well pressed reissue of Metropolis. It features some very well known British jazz players like Kenny Wheeler, Harry Beckett, Mike Osborne, Alan Skidmore. Quite a lot of it is improvised, I think, because some of the tracks are listed as collective improvisations, but the whole thing is meant to be reflect Mike Westbrook's impressions of London at the time. And again, going back to sleeve art, adding to the listening experience, this sleeve of early 70s London and a sign pointing to London very much fits the mood of the music. It's very sort of dusk time city music. Great stuff. Metropolis by Mike Westbrook. There you have it, 5 records for autumn as we enter the season of autumn for 2020. You've been watching Baggy Hi-Fi. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for your subscriptions. Thanks for watching. I'd be interested if anyone else in the VC would like to share their thoughts on what their listening is during the season of autumn. But for now, all I have to say is thanks again for watching, and bye for now.